The blinding light pierced my eyelids, dragging me from a murky darkness. The sharp pain in my side still lingered, but it wasn't the brutal, felling slash I remembered. I blinked repeatedly, trying to adjust to the unfamiliar room. Cold, gray metal walls, beeping machines with flashing lights, and a tall figure leaning over me. "Easy now." A deep, calm voice resonated, echoing in the confined space. "You're safe. I'm Captain Corbin. You're aboard the Stellaris." Corbin. The name was alien, as was his face. His amber eyes held a strange warmth, utterly unlike the stern, unyielding gazes I was accustomed to. He was human. We, the Lumina, rarely encountered humans. Our history was fraught with localized conflicts, separate from distant civilizations. I tried to move, but my body refused to obey. The sterile scent of antiseptic overwhelmed the lingering smell of burnt metal and plastic in my memory. "Water," my voice croaked a weak rasp. Corbin quickly offered a small, cylindrical tube to my lips. Cool liquid slowly soothed my parched throat. I gradually sat up, leaning against the medical padding. My eyes scanned my body. My emerald green skin, already distinct to the Lumina, was now even paler. I shivered, seeing the wound meticulously bandaged, no longer a sticky, dried river of blue-green blood. It was an astonishing level of care. "What happened?" I asked, my voice still faint, mind reeling. "The outpost, my guard." Corbin sat on the edge of the cot, his expression composed. "We received a distress call from Lyra Citadel. When we arrived, the entire sector was besieged by the Obsidian Swarm. We cleared them out, but I'm afraid there were very few survivors. You were one of the few we found." My heart clenched. Lyra Citadel, our last defensive stronghold in the isolated zone. My brethren, my squad mates. Familiar faces now, just fragmented memories. I close my eyes, try to suppress the rising grief. I am Kaelen, a scout for the Lumina Defense Forces. My mission was to protect our border region from any threat. I had failed. "Why were you there?" I asked, opening my eyes, looking directly at Corbin. "Humans are not allies of the Lumina." Corbin gave a slight, peculiar shrug. The Galactic Council had received reports of increased Obsidian Swarm activity on the fringe of the system. Our vessel, the Stellaris, is part of the Peace Fleet, dispatched to assess the situation. We act on Council orders, and more importantly, out of principle. Principle? A distant concept for us Lumina. Survival above all. The strong endure. The weak perish. That was the rule. His actions, human actions, defied all logic I knew. I felt exhausted, yet a myriad of questions clamored in my mind. "Rest now," Corbin said softly. "The Stellaris' medical systems are more advanced than anything you've seen. We'll have you fully recovered." Though still skeptical, I couldn't deny the sense of security I felt here. A strange sensation, like an unseen hand pulling me from the abyss. I nodded, drowsiness quickly overwhelming me, drawing me into a deep slumber. Over the next several days, I slowly regained my strength. The human doctors, with the aid of advanced instrumentation, healed my wounds with remarkable speed. Dermal regenerators, cellular enhancers, nanosutures, concepts beyond Lumina technology. For my people, an injury like mine would have been a death sentence, or at best, permanent disfigurement. But these humans spoke of having me combat-ready again in mere weeks. I also began to learn about my rescuers. The Stellaris was a united Terran ship, part of the peacekeeping and humanitarian armada of the Galactic Council. Her crew was primarily human, a relatively new species on the galactic stage, but one quickly gaining a reputation for their advanced technology, unyielding bravery, and puzzling tendency to help those in need, even at great cost to themselves. Corbin was the one I interacted with most as I recovered. He visited me daily, sometimes bringing strange foods, always first ensuring they were safe for Lumina physiology. He also taught me about human culture, towering mountains, vast oceans, velvety night skies. In turn, I told him of Lyra, my home moon, with its steaming jungles and violet sunsets. We spoke of family, duty, and purpose. Corbin's eyes would light up when talking about his daughter, Willow, awaiting his return back on Mars colony. It's for her, and kids like her, that we do what we do out here, he told me once. To make the galaxy just a little safer, a little brighter, so that someday, perhaps they can know real peace. Peace. For the Lumina, peace was not a concept I was overly familiar with. Existence was struggle, conflict, and competition. The strong thrived while the weak perished. This was the way of things. But the more time I spent with this human, the more I began to wonder if perhaps there was another way. As my wounds healed, I was eventually allowed to leave the med bay, always under Corbin's watchful eye. He showed me around the massive ship, the hydroponic gardens where they grew fresh produce, the observation deck with its expansive view of the stars, the training rooms where crew members sparred and drilled. I marveled at the easy camaraderie among the humans, the laughter and casual touches so different from the rigid formality and distance of Lumina military units. I also met other members of the council aboard. Rorik, a gruff but kind human engineer. Soren, a human tactical specialist with a dry wit. Kithara, a graceful, purple-skinned Umbra navigator. Draxus, a towering, red-skinned Solari security officer. And Lyndon, a nimble, orange-skinned Terex medic. All were treated with the same respect and fellowship by the human crew, despite our obvious differences, united in common purpose. Still, doubt gnawed at me. What was my purpose now? My squad was gone, my outpost destroyed. Once I had fully recovered, where would I go? What would I do? Could I truly return to Lyra, take up arms once more for a government mired in endless conflict, a society that cared nothing for the weak and broken? I shared these doubts with Corbin one evening as we sat together in the gardens, the scent of alien flora perfuming the recycled air. I feel lost, I confessed, staring down at my hands, still bearing faint scars from the attack. Directionless. You've all saved me, healed me, shown me kindness I still don't fully understand. How can I repay that? How do I move forward? Corbin was silent for a long moment, thoughtful as ever in his response. Finally, he took my hand in his, the warmth of his skin instantly soothing. You know, there are still hundreds down on Lyra's Citadel suffering from the aftermath of the Obsidian Swarm attack. Many were wounded, many more displaced, resources destroyed. They could use our help. I looked up at him, surprised. You're going down there? Even after the attack? He nodded, resolute. The Stellaris may be a warship, but her primary mission has always been a humanitarian one. We go where we're needed. He squeezed my hand. And in this case, I think you're needed too. I blinked at him, unsure. Me? What could I possibly offer? I'm just one broken soldier. Corbin smiled that gentle smile of his. You're also a survivor. Someone who understands their pain and loss. Someone with an instinctive knowledge of their world and ways. You have talents and strength beyond what you know. Come down with me. Let's help put things back together. I stared into his earnest eyes, seeing the pure belief shining there. Belief in me, a relative stranger, an alien. He had already given me back life, a chance. Now he was offering me purpose. I felt a swell of unfamiliar emotion burst through my chest. I still didn't understand these humans. Not fully. But I understood this human, this frustratingly kind male who had saved me, cared for me, and now wanted me by his side as he recklessly threw himself into danger once more. How could I possibly refuse? Taking a deep breath, I nodded and squeezed his hand in return. Okay, I said softly. Let's go be the light. And so it was decided. A new path begun, one I never could have foreseen. The next day, Corbin and I joined the away team headed to the surface of Lyra's Citadel, ready to confront whatever challenges awaited, side by side. The scene that greeted us on Lyra's Citadel was one of utter devastation, far worse than I had imagined. Mangled defense structures, scorched earth where the Stellaris' cannons had obliterated Obsidian Swarm clusters, makeshift tents crammed with the injured and displaced. Not a single permanent dwelling remained standing. I stood frozen for a moment, overwhelmed by the acrid stench of smoke and decay, but there was Corbin by my side, solid and resolute. Come on, he said calmly, slinging his med pack over his shoulder and grabbing a crate of supplies. There's work to be done. We headed towards the field hospital first, erected by the council med teams that had deployed ahead of us. Rows of cots held the wounded, human techs bustling between them with dermal regenerators and hypo sprays. I noticed a group of unattended Lumina survivors huddled in a corner and steered us in their direction. Their wary eyes widened as I approached, taking in my Lumina features overlaid with the unfamiliar council-issue fatigues I now wore. "Peace," I said in Lumina Standard. "I am Kaelen, formerly of the 18th Scout Battalion. This human is a medic. We're here to help." "Why would the Terrans help us?" One of them spat, a young male I recognized as a local miner. "We're not their responsibility. We were barely a speck on their star charts before this." Others muttered agreement, their faces etched with pain and suspicion. Before I could respond, Corbin crouched down to their level, opening his pack and holding out an iridescent vial, a potent Lumina painkiller. "You're right," he said evenly, the translation device on his collar rendering his words in perfect Lumina Standard. "We're not here out of obligation or politics. We're here because you're hurting, and we have the means to ease that hurt. That's all the reason we need." The miner stared at him for a long moment, evaluating. Finally, he reached out to accept the vial, and Corbin began gently rolling up the miner's shredded sleeve to treat his lacerations. The others watched tensely, some wincing in shared pain, but none shrank away when their turns came. And so it went. We moved amongst the survivors, Corbin providing swift and expert care, while I translated and soothed with familiar phrases. Some we visited in their crowded tents, treating illness and dehydration from poor sanitation. Others we assisted in the grim work of burying their dead, offering small words of comfort as they keened their grief to the twin, distant moons of Lyra. We coordinated food and supply distribution from the Stellaris cargo hold, ensuring the rations were familiar and palatable to Lumina tastes. Everywhere we went, I saw the initial distrust and resentment in my people's eyes gradually fade away, replaced by tentative gratitude, even wonder, as they witnessed the tireless dedication of Corbin and his fellow humans, expecting no payment or praise in return. It was a perspective shift, realizing that compassion and unity could be strengths in their own right. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of frustration, of helplessness in the face of so much loss. One dawn, after a sleepless night tending to a child's horrific burns, I found Corbin on the outskirts of the encampment, head bowed and shoulders slumped with exhaustion. "Hey," I said softly, coming to stand beside him. "You okay?" He glanced over at me, managing a rueful smile. "Just thinking, wishing we could have gotten here sooner, that we could do more." I nodded slowly. Those same thoughts had plagued me as well. The Lumina prided ourselves on our strong defenses, yet our outpost had fallen so swiftly. How many more might we have saved with the Terrans' advanced weaponry, their indomitable spirit? But wishes changed nothing. "We're doing everything we can," I reminded him. "You taught me that. And look at what we've already accomplished here in mere days. My people are not quick to trust, but you've shown them a new way. Hope where there was none before." Some of the tension eased from Corbin's posture as he digested my words. "I suppose you're right," he admitted. "I guess I just can't help but feel the weight of it all sometimes. Willow would probably tell me I'm being too hard on myself again. She sounds wise, your Willow," I teased lightly. "You should listen to her more." "Brat," he retorted with a chuckle, bumping his shoulder against mine. The casual contact sent a pleasant shiver up my spine. These moments with Corbin, the easy banter and physical closeness, felt more right than anything I had known. Natural as breathing. We lapsed into comfortable silence for a while, watching Lyra's twin moons creep towards the horizon, the hushed murmur of the waking camp behind us. Finally, Corbin turned to face me fully, his expression unreadable. "What will you do when our work here is done?" he asked quietly. "Have you given any thought to that?" I hesitated, an icy tendril of uncertainty curling in my gut. In truth, I had been avoiding that very question. The Stellaris and her crew had begun to feel like home. Corbin had begun to feel like something else entirely. "I'm not sure," I admitted, hating the small tremble in my voice. "Return to Lyra, I suppose. Make my report to command." but the words felt hollow. The thought of leaving now was almost physically painful. Corbin held my gaze, searching. For a breathless moment, I thought he might reach for me, but he simply nodded, looking back to the horizon where the first sliver of sun was peeking through. "Well, you've more than proven yourself here," he said at last. "Proven your resilience, your adaptability, your compassion." He glanced at me sidelong. "The Stellaris could use someone like you. The Council could, if that's something you might want." I stared at him, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. Was he saying what I thought he was? Offering me a place among his crew? A chance to continue what we'd started, not just here, but out there in the swirling vastness of space. I thought of my squad, my old life, what it had been, what it could never be again. Then I thought of the Stellaris, the sense of purpose and camaraderie I'd found there, of the way Corbin made me feel challenged and valued, seen in a way I never had been before. Maybe this was more than just a posting, more than duty or obligation. Maybe this was the beginning of everything. I took a shaky breath and squared my shoulders, meeting Corbin's earnest gaze with a determined one of my own. "Yes," I said firmly. "I want that. I want to stay on the Stellaris. With you. With the crew." The grin that broke across Corbin's face was blinding, transformative. I felt an answering smile tug at my own lips, giddy elation bubbling up from some secret well within me. This was right. This was where I belonged. "Well, all right then," Corbin said, his voice warm with barely contained delight. "Let's make it official." He reached out to clasp my shoulder, the touch searing even through the layers of my uniform. "Welcome aboard, Kaelen of the Lumina, of the Galactic Council." The days that followed passed in a whirlwind of activity. The grueling work hardly seemed to matter anymore. I had a future now, one I had chosen for myself, one filled with purpose and promise. We finished our relief efforts on Lyra's Citadel, the survivors now safe and provisioned for the long process of rebuilding. I bid farewell to those I had come to know, assuring them that the Stellaris would check in, that they would not be forgotten. Upon returning to the ship, I was granted official quarters and began intensive training to integrate with the crew. Corbin, unsurprisingly, took a lead role in my education, guiding me through Terran customs and protocols, helping me refine my translation implant, and challenging me in combat exercises. "Never go easy on me," I told him once, panting and sweat-streaked after a particularly brutal sparring session. "I may be new to your ways, but I'm no fragile flower." Corbin laughed, reaching down to haul me to my feet. "Noted," he said wryly. "I'll remember that next time you're cursing my name from the mats." As I found my footing amongst the Stellaris' diverse crew, I couldn't help but marvel at the easy acceptance and respect I was afforded. So different from the rigid hierarchy of Lumina units. Here I was valued not just for my skills, but for my unique perspective and experiences. Rorik, the human engineer, eagerly sought my thoughts on modifying the ship's shielding to better withstand Obsidian Swarm plasma blasts. Kithara, the Umbra navigator, patiently explained the intricacies of voidfold calculations used for warp jumps, fascinated by the Lumina methods I had learned. And in the med bay, I shared what I knew of Lumina physiology and field medicine with Lyndon, the Terex medic, learning their advanced techniques in turn. It was a dance of cultures and ideas, a synergy that only enriched us all. And through it all, Corbin remained my anchor, my guide, and my most dedicated advocate. We fell into an easy rhythm, working and training together, sharing meals in the galley, and often ending our shift stargazing on the observation deck, trading stories of our worlds. Sometimes he spoke of his daughter, and the wistful longing in his voice made my heart ache. I knew he missed her fiercely. "She would love you, you know," he said one evening as we watched a vibrant nebula drift past the view screen. "Willow, she's fascinated by other species, always begging me for stories of our missions." He slanted me a smile. Meeting her very own Lumina warrior would probably make her whole year. I ducked my head, warmth flooding my cheeks at the thought. "I would be honored to meet her someday," I murmured. "If you think she wouldn't mind a visit from her father's alien partner." The words crackled on my tongue, daring and new. Corbin stilled, his eyes widening a fraction. "Partner," he echoed softly. Is that what we are? I swallowed hard, holding his gaze. Isn't it? Unless my feelings are one-sided. The mere thought made me want to curl in on myself like a withered leaf. No, Corbin breathed, catching my hand and pulling me closer. Not one-sided. Never that. His other hand came up to cup my cheek, rough palm infinitely gentle. He rested his forehead against mine, the gesture achingly intimate. Kaelen, you have become essential to me. I didn't expect this. Never thought I could feel this way again. But you made me want to try. My breath hitched, my pulse thundering in my ears. I reached up to brush my fingers wonderingly over the pale stubble along his jaw. Corbin, I whispered, I want this too. Want you. Whatever comes. He made a rough sound, almost a growl, and then his lips were on mine, hot and insistent. I gasped into the kiss, my hands fisting in the front of his uniform as he hauled me flush against him. The taste of him was intoxicating, addictive. I lost myself to the heat of his mouth, the slide of his tongue against my own. Nothing had ever felt more right. We lost track of time, wrapped up in each other, trading lazy kisses and murmured words of affection. It was only the chirp of Corbin's communicator that finally broke us apart. Flushed and breathless, Corbin answered, his voice still gravelly. Corbin here. Lieutenant, came Captain Jarrett's clipped tones. We've just received a distress call from a civilian transport near the Tsin asteroid belt. Possible Obsidian Swarm raider activity. I need you to assemble a tactical team for intercept and potential rescue ops. Corbin and I locked eyes, adrenaline already humming through my veins. Understood, Captain, he replied. Ensign Kaelen, and I will be in the hangar in 10. Corbin out. As we hurried to gather our gear, I couldn't help the fierce grin stretching my face. This was who we were. Corbin and I, guardians, protectors. No matter the danger, no matter the odds. We would be the light in the darkness, the hope for the hopeless. Together always, for as long as the stars burn bright. And I knew with bone-deep certainty that I had finally found my true path. My purpose. With this crew. With this remarkable human by my side. I was home. The hangar bay hummed with activity. Ships were being prepped, weapons checked, and tactical teams gathered. Captain Jarrett, a stern but fair human with iron-gray hair, oversaw the preparations. She gave Corbin a curt nod as we approached. Corbin, Kaelen, she stated, her voice crisp. Your team is waiting. Rorik will handle comms, Soren on tactical, Kithara for navigation, Draxus for heavy support, and Lyndon for medical. Keep it clean. Civilian lives are paramount. The Obsidian Swarm attacks are becoming more coordinated, more ruthless. Understood, Captain, Corbin replied, his gaze firm. He squeezed my arm lightly, a silent reassurance. Let's move. We boarded a sleek, compact dropship designed for rapid deployment and infiltration. Inside, the team was already strapped in. Rorik, a burly human with a kind face, gave us a quick grin. Soren, lean and focused, checked his weapon. Kithara, her purple skin shimmering faintly in the dim light, calibrated the navigation system. Draxus, a formidable presence, even seated, gripped the armrests with thick, red fingers. Lyndon, nimble despite his orange skin, organized his medical kit. All right, team. Corbin's voice was calm, cutting through the low thrum of the ship. The civilian transport Starfall sent a distress beacon from the Tsin asteroid belt. Scans indicate multiple Obsidian Swarm raider signatures. Our priority, secure the civilians, neutralize the threat, and extract safely. Kaelen, your scout training will be vital for recon and flanking maneuvers. Soren, you're my eyes and ears on enemy movement. Draxus, provide cover fire and break formations. Rorik, maintain a secure comm link with the Stellaris. Lyndon, stand by for casualties. Understood, came the chorus of replies. The dropship launched, tearing through the hangar doors with a surge of power. The stars stretched out before us, a dazzling tapestry. But our destination, the Tsin asteroid belt, loomed as a chaotic, swirling mass of rock and debris. It was a known haven for pirates and, now, the Obsidian Swarm. My instincts sharpened. The familiar hum of a ship preparing for battle, the scent of ozone and tension, it all brought back a flood of memories from Lyra. Yet, this time, I wasn't filled with despair. I was filled with a fierce determination, fueled by a new purpose. Approaching asteroid field, Kythera announced, her voice calm and precise. Sensors detecting multiple heat signatures. Confirmed Obsidian Swarm raiders. They're already engaging the starfall. A holographic display shimmered to life in the center of the cabin, showing a battered civilian transport surrounded by numerous jagged, dark vessels. Their hulls were an unsettling, obsidian black, reflecting no light, their weapons spitting bursts of corrosive energy. They moved with a chilling, predatory efficiency. They're trying to disable the Starfall's engines, Soren observed, his fingers dancing over console. Looks like a boarding party is imminent. Not on our watch, Corbin growled, his jaw tight. Rorik, prep weapons. Kythera, get us in close, but keep us hidden among the asteroids. Soren, identify their lead vessel. The dropship banked sharply, weaving through the dense asteroid field. The pilots of the Stellaris were renowned for their skill, and our craft moved like a phantom, avoiding detection. My Lumina senses, typically attuned to subtle shifts in atmospheric pressure and heat, strained against the void of space. But the visual data from the displays was enough. The Obsidian Swarm was a formidable foe, relentless and seemingly without fear. Lead vessel identified, Captain, Soren reported. Heavily armored, larger than the others. Likely their command ship. Our priority is the Starfall, Corbin reminded him, his eyes fixed on the display. But if we can cripple their command, it might throw them into disarray. Kaelen, think you could get a read on their patterns? Any weaknesses you can spot from their attack vectors? I focused, recalling years of observing enemy movements, even on a vastly different scale. Their formations are tight, almost inflexible, I noted, pointing at the holographic display. They rely on brute force in overwhelming numbers. There might be a brief window between assault waves, a momentary break in their shield integrity when they transition to boarding maneuvers. Corbin nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. Good. Rorik, charge main cannons. Draxus, prepare a suppressive fire volley. Linden, ready emergency medkits for rapid deployment. Kythera, on my mark, bring us in fast and low, a direct assault on their flank closest to the Starfall. We hit them hard, disrupt their boarding attempt, and then get our people on that transport. The tension in the dropship was palpable, a live wire buzzing with anticipation. I felt the familiar adrenaline surge, not cold fear as it once was, but a focused, controlled intensity. This was what I was trained for. This was my purpose now, to be the light. Coming up on optimal attack vector, Kythera announced. 10 seconds to engagement. I checked my plasma rifle, its hum a comforting vibration in my hands. Beside me, Corbin's grip on his own rifle was steady. Our eyes met. A silent understanding passed between us, a shared resolve. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. Corbin's voice was a roar. The dropship burst from the asteroid cover, a streak of light and fury. Our cannons blazed, tearing into the Obsidian Swarm raiders. The shockwave rattled the cabin, and explosions blossomed in the void. Draxus unleashed a barrage of heavy fire, punching through the dark hulls. The Obsidian Swarm, caught off guard, briefly faltered. Kaelen, Soren, with me? Corbin commanded. Rorik, keep that fire concentrated. Kythera, maintain close support. The dropship docked with a jarring thump against the Starfall's airlock. The ramp hissed open, revealing a chaotic scene inside the civilian transport. The air was thick with smoke, the metallic tang of fear, and the chilling, chittering sounds of the Obsidian Swarm. They had already breached the Starfall's hull, their chitinous forms scuttling through the corridors, weapons clanking. They were darker than the void itself, their segmented bodies reflecting nothing, their multiple eyes gleaming with an alien malevolence. Civilians first. Corbin yelled, leading the charge. His human strength was impressive, his movements fluid and decisive. He fired his rifle, dropping 2 swarmers instantly. Soren moved with precision, tagging targets for Draxus, who was already deploying from the dropship behind us, his heavy weapon tearing through enemy ranks. I moved with the quick, silent grace of a Lumina scout, my emerald skin a blur against the dim, flickering lights of the starfall. I flanked the swarmers, exploiting the narrow corridors, my plasma rifle spitting emerald bolts. My enhanced luminous senses, while not fully adapted to this environment, helped me anticipate their predictable, direct movements. They were formidable in a straight fight, but lacked adaptability. One of the Obsidian Swarmers, larger than the rest, snarled, its mandibles clicking menacingly. It lunged at a group of huddled civilians. Corbin intercepted it, a swift, brutal strike with the butt of his rifle. The creature stumbled, and he finished it with a precise shot. He then turned to the terrified civilians, guiding them towards the safety of our dropship. "Lyndon, get these people out of here," Corbin ordered, his voice strained but firm. Lyndon, already moving with his medic bag, began ushering them aboard. The fight was fierce. The Obsidian Swarm was numerous, their attacks relentless. But our team was coordinated, a seamless machine of varied skills working in concert. Rorik's precise shots cleared paths, Kythera provided real-time tactical updates, and Draxus laid down suppressive fire that sent shards of bulkheads flying. I moved like a shadow, taking down targets that Corbin and the others had missed, my actions driven by a primal need to protect these fragile lives, a need I hadn't realized I possessed. A sudden, sharp pain flared in my side. I stumbled, clutching my ribs. An Obsidian Swarmer had managed to get a lucky hit, its razor-sharp limb grazing my armor. It wasn't deep, but it burned. "Kaelen!" Corbin's voice was sharp with concern. He was by my side in an instant, his eyes scanning my wound, even as he fired his rifle, eliminating the swarmer that had struck me. "Are you all right?" "Just a scratch," I gritted out, pushing through the pain. "Keep moving. More incoming." The civilian transport's interior was a maze of narrow corridors and emergency bulkheads, making the fight feel claustrophobic. The Obsidian Swarm preferred open spaces where their numbers could overwhelm, but here, our disciplined movements and superior firepower gave us an edge. We pushed forward, clearing deck by deck, guiding clusters of terrified civilians towards the dropship. Soren's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, the Swarm's command ship is attempting to disengage. Looks like they're breaking off their main attack." "They're retreating?" I asked, surprised. The Obsidian Swarm rarely withdrew. "They've secured what they came for," Corbin stated grimly, his eyes narrowing as he scanned a breached cargo bay. "Small, high-value targets. Likely technology or specialized materials, not just destruction this time. They're adapting." This was new. The Swarm, usually a force of pure, mindless destruction, was evolving. This made them even more dangerous. "Rorik, can you get a lock on their command ship?" Corbin commanded. "Kythera, plot an intercept course for the dropship. We're not letting them get away with this." As Rorik confirmed a target lock, a new wave of swarmers erupted from a ventilation shaft, larger, more aggressive than the others. These were clearly a specialized unit, their chitin even darker, almost absorbing the dim light. They moved with a chilling synchronization, surrounding us. "Ambush!" Draxus roared, unleashing a torrent of fire. Corbin shoved me behind a thick console. "Get to the dropship, Kaelen. Lead the remaining civilians." "No," I insisted, shaking my head. "We fight together." My Lumina training, the relentless drills in confined spaces, kicked in. My movements became faster, more precise. I focused on their weak points, the segmented joints of their armor, the brief pauses in their assault. The fight escalated into a desperate melee. We were outnumbered, but our coordination was flawless. Lyndon moved swiftly, patching up minor injuries even amidst the chaos. Soren's tactical calls were invaluable, guiding our fire to cut down the densest formations. Draxus was a wall of pure force, his heavy weapon tearing apart anything that came too close. Corbin fought with a fierce intensity, a protector to the core. He moved with a brutal elegance. Every shot, every punch, every move calculated for maximum impact. I found myself instinctively mirroring his movements, a silent dance of death with our alien adversaries. Our combined strength was formidable. Just as we began to gain ground, a deafening explosion rocked the starfall. The ship's internal lighting flickered, then died, plunging us into near-total darkness. Emergency lights sputtered, casting long, dancing shadows. "Damage report," Corbin shouted into the comms. "Engine room compromised." Rorik's voice crackled. "They hit the core. This ship isn't going to last much longer. We need to go now," Kithra urged. "The command ship is making its jump. We have a narrow window." Corbin made a split-second decision. "Lyndon, get everyone already on the dropship prepped for immediate departure. Kithra, initiate launch sequence. Rorik, prep a short-range EMP burst on my mark. Soren, Draxus, Kaelen, focus fire on the remaining swarmers. We're covering our retreat." The last remaining civilians, huddled in a small, reinforced compartment, were quickly ushered towards the dropship by Corbin. The Obsidian Swarm, sensing our desperation, pressed their attack even harder. Their chittering grew louder, more triumphant. "Now, Rorik," Corbin yelled. A powerful electromagnetic pulse erupted from the dropship. The Obsidian Swarmers faltered, their biomechanical systems briefly disrupted. It wasn't enough to kill them, but it gave us the precious seconds we needed. We sprinted towards the dropship, covering each other. As the last civilian boarded, Corbin turned to me, his hand grasping mine. "Ready?" I nodded, my chest heaving. "Always." We dove into the dropship as the ramp slammed shut behind us. The ship disengaged from the starfall, just as another massive explosion tore through the civilian vessel's stern. The starfall disintegrated into a fireball, consumed by the void. Inside the dropship, the tension slowly bled out, replaced by exhaustion and a somber silence. We had saved lives, but the loss of the starfall was a harsh reminder of the swarm's escalating threat. Corbin slumped into the pilot's chair, running a hand through his hair. "Good work, team." Captain Jarrett's voice came over the comms, a note of grim approval. "Report back to the Stellaris for debrief and repairs." And Kaelen, outstanding work out there. Your insights were crucial. My heart swelled at her words. It wasn't just Corbin who saw my worth. The entire crew, the entire council, acknowledged it. Back on the Stellaris, after medical checks and a quick meal, Corbin and I found ourselves in a quiet corner of the observation deck. The stars, once a distant, abstract beauty, now felt intimately connected to our ongoing struggle. The weight of the starfall's destruction lingered, a chilling reminder of the enemy's evolving tactics. "They're learning," I said, breaking the silence, my voice low. "The Obsidian Swarm. They're no longer just mindless predators. They have a new kind of intelligence guiding them." Corbin nodded, his gaze distant. "That's what worries the Council. They're attacking trade routes, targeting infrastructure. It's a shift from their usual destructive rampages. This could mean a full-scale galactic conflict." I shivered, despite the controlled atmosphere of the ship. A full-scale war with a race as relentless as the Obsidian Swarm would devastate countless worlds. My own people, the Lumina, had fought countless small wars, but this was different. This was an existential threat. Corbin turned to me, his amber eyes reflecting the distant stars. "It's why we need people like you, Kaelen. Someone who can adapt, who can see things from a different perspective." He reached out, his hand gently tracing the faint scar on my cheek, a relic from the fight. "You were incredible out there." The simple touch sent a familiar warmth through me. I leaned into it, finding comfort in his proximity. "We make a good team, Corbin." He smiled, a soft, tired curve of his lips. "We do, Kaelen. We really do." He pulled me closer, resting his chin on my head. "It's a long fight ahead, but with you, it feels like we stand a chance." I closed my eyes, breathing in his familiar scent. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But here, in the quiet embrace of this human, surrounded by the hum of the Stellaris, I knew I was exactly where I needed to be. Our path was intertwined, forged in fire and purpose. Together, we would face whatever came next. The weeks that followed blurred into a relentless cycle of missions and preparations. The Obsidian Swarm attacks intensified, no longer isolated incidents but strategic strikes against key trade hubs and resource worlds. The Stellaris was at the forefront of every major engagement, its crew pushed to their limits. Our team, now a finely tuned unit, spearheaded most of the tactical operations. Rorik's engineering prowess kept our dropship in peak condition, even after brutal combat. Soren's tactical mind seemed to anticipate the swarm's every move, his voice a calm constant in our comms. Kithara's navigation skills allowed us to execute daring jumps and evasive maneuvers, often slipping through asteroid fields and nebulae that other pilots deemed impassable. Draxus was an unstoppable force on the ground, his heavy weapon tearing through swarm ranks, while Lyndon's swift medical attention saved countless lives. And at the heart of it all was Corbin, his leadership unwavering, his presence a beacon of strength and resolve. I, too, found my place, my luminous senses and scout training proving invaluable. My ability to track faint energy signatures, discern subtle shifts in their attack patterns, and navigate complex, broken terrain allowed us to predict ambushes and find hidden escape routes. I often found myself working in lockstep with Corbin, our movements fluid, almost telepathic, a seamless blend of human resilience and Lumina agility. One particularly grueling mission took us to a besieged research station orbiting a gas giant. The station, home to brilliant xenolinguists studying ancient galactic languages, was vital. The Obsidian Swarm wanted their knowledge, or perhaps just to silence them. We fought through claustrophobic corridors, the air thick with the acrid smell of burnt metal and the eerie chittering of the swarm. We were evacuating the last scientists when the station's structural integrity began to fail. Hull breaches everywhere. Rorik's voice crackled, laced with urgency. The station's going to crack. We need to pull out now. Corbin, there are still 3 scientists in Sector Gamma, a frantic voice from the comms. One of the station's researchers pleaded. They're trapped. The path is blocked by debris. Corbin's eyes hardened. He looked at me, a silent question passing between us. Kaelen, can you find a way through? A ventilation shaft, anything? I closed my eyes for a moment, my luminous senses straining, mapping the station's damaged architecture from the vibrations in the deck plating. There's a maintenance conduit, unstable but passable, I reported, pointing to a schematic on Soren's console. It's tight. Only one person at a time. I'll go, Corbin said without hesitation. No, I'm lighter, faster, I countered, already moving towards the access panel. I can navigate the unstable sections better. You coordinate the evacuation here. Keep the swarm off our backs. He hesitated, his gaze searching mine. Be careful, Kaelen. Always, I replied, a small, fierce smile on my lips. I slipped into the narrow, dark conduit. The air was thick with dust and the groan of straining metal. I moved quickly, my hands and feet finding purchase on precarious footholds, my body twisting through gaps too small for a human. The conduit vibrated ominously as the station shuddered around me. My enhanced hearing picked up the faint, terrified whispers of the trapped scientists and the chilling clicks of approaching swarmers. Finally, I reached the blocked section. 3 humans, pale with fear, huddled behind a collapsed bulkhead. Kaelen, one of them exclaimed, relief flooding their voice. No time, I urged, pulling out my plasma cutter. We need to move quickly. The swarm is coming. I carve an opening just large enough for them to squeeze through. As they began to exit, the conduit behind us groaned louder. Incoming. Corbin's voice boomed over my personal comm. They found another breach. Just as the last scientist squeezed past me, a section of the conduit ahead collapsed, blocking my path back. Behind me, the distinct chittering of the swarm grew louder, echoing through the narrow space. I was trapped between 2 collapsing sections, with the enemy closing in. Kaelen, Corbin's voice was raw with urgency. Report. What's your status? Trap, I yelled back, bracing myself as another tremor shook the station. Conduit collapsed ahead. Swarm behind me. A moment of chilling silence. Then, Corbin's voice, grim and resolute. Rorik, give me direct access to that sector. Draxus, prep demolition charges for a controlled breach. Corbin, it's too risky. Rorik protested. The whole section could go. I don't care. Corbin's voice was sharp, a command that brooked no argument. Kaelen is in there. We are not leaving her behind. I heard the frantic activity on the comms, the sounds of heavy equipment being moved. A desperate plan. My heart pounded against my ribs, a mixture of fear and an overwhelming surge of gratitude. He was risking everything for me. Suddenly, a section of the conduit wall beside me exploded inwards. Dust and debris filled the air. Through the cloud, I saw Corbin, his face grimed with soot, his eyes blazing with fierce determination. He had breached the wall himself. Move, he roared, extending a hand to me. I scrambled through the newly created opening, stumbling out into a broader, but equally damaged corridor. Behind us, the Obsidian Swarm poured into the conduit, but Draxus's precision charges detonated, sealing the path and collapsing the section, trapping them. That was too close, Ensign, Corbin said, pulling me into a rough embrace, checking me for injuries. His voice was laced with a relief that touched me deeply. You came for me, I whispered, looking up at him, my own voice shaky. He held my gaze, his eyes shining with an intensity that stole my breath. Always. We made it back to the dropship just in time. The Stellaris had to use its tractor beam to pull us away as the research station finally imploded, a silent, violent spectacle in the vacuum of space. The mission was a success, but the cost was almost too high. Back on the Stellaris, debriefed and bandaged, I found Corbin in the observation deck once more. The vastness of space seemed less daunting now, more like a canvas for our shared struggles. He watched the stars, his face etched with fatigue. They're getting bolder, he said, without looking at me. The Council is already discussing a larger offensive. This could be the beginning of a true galactic war. Then we will fight, I said, stepping closer, my hand finding his. His fingers intertwined with mine, a comforting warmth. Together. He turned to me, his amber eyes softening. Together. His thumb stroked my knuckles. You know, seeing you trapped in there, I realized something. What? I asked, my heart quickening. That there's no mission, no duty, no order that would ever stop me from coming for you, Kaelen, he confessed, his voice low and raw. You're not just a crewmate anymore. You're everything. My breath hitched. The words, so simple, yet so profound, echoed in the vastness of the observation deck. My vision blurred slightly, tears welling up in my eyes, an unfamiliar, almost painful sensation. Lumina rarely cried. Corbin, I whispered, my voice choked with emotion. You are everything to me, too. He pulled me into his arms, a gentle, protective embrace. His warmth enveloped me, chasing away the lingering chill of the void. This was more than just purpose. This was belonging, love, a bond forged in the crucible of battle and sealed by unwavering loyalty. We were two disparate beings from different worlds, standing united against a common enemy, our hearts intertwined. The galaxy might be plunging into chaos, but with him, I knew we would face it side by side. The galaxy held its breath. The Obsidian Swarm, now clearly under a unified, malicious intelligence, launched a series of devastating, coordinated attacks on Council worlds. What began as skirmishes escalated into a full-blown war, unlike anything the unified species had faced in centuries. The Stellaris, now a key vessel in the Council's offensive fleet, found itself in the thick of it. Life aboard became a relentless cycle of strategic planning, daring incursions, and desperate defensive maneuvers. Sleep was a luxury, meals were often eaten on the run, and the familiar faces of our crew became more like family than ever before. We fought side by side with other Council vessels, the nimble Zephyr Scout ships, the durable Terex cruisers, the technologically advanced Aquos battleships. Each species brought its unique strengths to the common fight. Corbin was a pillar through it all. His strategic brilliance shone brightest under pressure, his decisions calm and precise amidst the chaos of battle. He never asked for more than he gave, always leading from the front, inspiring fierce loyalty from every member of our diverse team. His presence was a steady anchor in the storm, not just for the crew, but for me. My bond with him deepened with every shared close call, every quiet moment stolen between missions. We would often find ourselves on the observation deck, hands intertwined, gazing at the star-swept void, a stark contrast to the violence we face daily. We spoke of Willow, of the future we hoped to build, a future where such horrors would be a distant memory. His love was a fierce, protective warmth that enveloped me, giving me strength I never knew I possessed. One particularly critical mission saw us targeting a newly discovered Obsidian Swarm staging ground, a vast, dark nebula that had become their primary fortress. Intelligence suggested the swarm's new, controlling intelligence resided there. Neutralizing it was paramount. "This is it, team," Captain Jarrett's voice echoed through the briefing room, grave and resolute. "Our most audacious strike yet. Soren, your tactical data suggests the nebula's core is where their command structure is strongest. Kaelen, your unique sensory abilities will be crucial in navigating the dense electromagnetic interference within. Corbin, your team will lead the infiltration." The plan was complex, dangerous, and almost suicidal. We would insert deep into the nebula, cloaked by its natural interference, and then, relying solely on our internal sensors and my Lumina instincts, navigate to the core. Once there, we deploy a specialized energy pulse designed to disrupt the swarm's collective consciousness. The dropship slipped into the churning, inky depths of the nebula. Outside, swirling gases of cosmic dust and electromagnetic fields obscured all external vision. The normal hum of the ship was replaced by a distorted, crackling symphony of interference. Navigation screens flickered wildly. "Visuals are compromised," Kithra reported, her voice strained. "Sensors barely penetrating the nebula's density. We're running blind." "Kaelen, we're relying on you," Corbin said, his hand gripping my shoulder. I closed my eyes, focusing. My Lumina senses stretched beyond the dropship's hull, sifting through the chaotic energy, seeking patterns. It was like trying to hear a whisper in a hurricane, but gradually, shapes began to form in my mind's eye, swirling currents, denser pockets of gas, faint heat signatures. Bearing 030, velocity at 175, I directed, my voice steady. "Tide turn coming up, now. Avoid the energy spike at 2 o'clock. Kithra expertly maneuvered the dropship, banking sharply. A violent tremor rocked the vessel as a massive energy surge grazed our shields. "Too close," Rorik muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. We continued our blind journey, guided solely by my evolving instincts and Corbin's unwavering trust. Hours crawled by, each second a test of nerve. The nebula's oppressive embrace made it impossible for the Stellaris to provide backup. We were utterly alone. Finally, a faint, rhythmic thrumming reached my senses. "I'm detecting a centralized energy signature," I announced. "Strong, consistent. It's their core. Directly ahead." "Target acquired," Corbin confirmed, his voice filled with grim satisfaction. "Rorik, prep the pulse generator. Soren, get a firing solution." As we approached the core, the nebula seemed to writhe around us. Dark, shadowy forms, countless Obsidian Swarm vessels, materialized from the swirling gases, launching themselves at our dropship. They were drawn to the energy pulse we were about to unleash. "They know we're here," Draxus roared, his heavy weapon already spitting fire. "Hold them off," Corbin commanded, his rifle spitting death into the advancing swarm. "Give Rorik time." The dropship became a tiny bastion against a tide of darkness. Our shields buckled under the relentless assault. Alarms blared. Linden moved frantically, patching wounds as fast as they appeared. We were outmatched, but we fought with the desperation of those with everything to lose. "Pulse generator ready," Rorik yelled, his fingers hovering over the activation panel. "Fire, Rorik! Fire!" Corbin screamed as a massive Obsidian Swarmer rammed our hull, tearing through a section of the dropship's armor. A blinding flash of pure, concentrated energy erupted from our dropship, engulfing the nebula's core. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, the chittering of the Obsidian Swarm ceased. Their attack stopped. The dark vessels, once so menacing, drifted aimlessly, their coordinated movements gone. The nebula, too, seemed to calm, its turbulent gases settling. We had done it. We had severed the head of the Obsidian Swarm. Relief, potent and overwhelming, washed over me. I looked at Corbin, his face bruised and streaked with blood, but his eyes shining with triumph. He reached for me, pulling me close. "We did it, Kaelen," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. The journey back to the Stellaris was a haze of exhaustion and quiet celebration. The Council fleet had detected the disruption, a ripple of victory spreading through their ranks. We were greeted as heroes, not just our team, but the entire crew of the Stellaris. The tide of the war had turned. The war wouldn't end overnight, but the Swarm's unified threat was broken. What remained would be dealt with. The galaxy, for the first time in a long time, could breathe. In the aftermath, Captain Jareth called Corbin and me to her ready room. "The Council is reviewing your mission report," she stated, a rare smile gracing her lips. "Your actions, Ensign Kaelen, were extraordinary. Your unique abilities were undeniably instrumental in this victory. As for you, Lieutenant Corbin, your leadership was exemplary. The Council wishes to offer you both new assignments. Corbin, they want you to command a new deep space exploration vessel, charting uncharted territories, seeking out new allies and resources. Kaelen, they've requested you join him as his first officer." My heart hammered. A new ship, exploration, a future side by side, not just as partners in battle, but as pioneers. Corbin met my gaze, a silent question in his amber eyes. "We accept, Captain," he said, without hesitation, his hand finding mine under the table. Later, alone on the observation deck, we watched as the Stellaris sliced through the void, heading towards a new dawn. "A new beginning," I murmured, leaning into Corbin's embrace. "For all of us," he agreed, his lips brushing my hair. "A chance to build something, Kaelen. A truly peaceful galaxy. For Willow, and for every child yet to come." I looked up at him, my emerald green skin glowing faintly in the starlight. His face, rugged and kind, was home. "Wherever we go, whatever we face," I said, my voice filled with certainty, "we face it together. Always." He kissed me then, a long, tender kiss that spoke of promises and a future full of hope. The stars outside seemed to shimmer brighter, bearing witness to a love that had defied all odds and a partnership that would light the way forward. Our story had just begun.